Hello, Commanders fans. Today we have some hot news that you can't miss, so get ready because there's a lot of important information coming your way. Before we begin, we'd like to take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and stay up to date on all the news about our Washington Commanders. Don't forget to leave a like, which greatly strengthens our community and helps bring this content to the most passionate fans of the team. Now, without further ado, let's get straight to today's news.
The Washington Commanders failed to meet the ambitious goal they set for themselves by reaching the NFC Championship game. General Manager Adam Peters was right to go all in, but now it's time for a different approach. Major changes are already underway in Washington. Cliff Kingsbury has been replaced by new offensive coordinator David Blau, who has brought in a quarterback's coach and an assistant to work closely with Jaden Daniels. The Commanders are still looking for a defensive coordinator to replace Joe Witt Jr. Peters needs to do his part regarding the roster. The Commanders have plenty of money to spend in free agency, and that amount will increase even more when the necessary sacrifices are made. But with only 6 picks in the 2026 NFL Draft, 2 of them in the first 4 rounds, the margin for error no longer exists. The Commanders haven't ruled out any options. Peters would likely like to trade the pick to get more capital, but that will be difficult as only one quarterback is expected to be selected before their turn comes. Using the Pro Football and Sports Network simulator, we projected how Peters might perform in our latest 7-round draft simulation. Simulation of the 2026 NFL Draft with 7 rounds by the Commanders as the pressure mounts on Adam Peters.
The Commanders are calling up Caleb Downs. Safety, Ohio State Buckeyes. Round number 1, pick number 7. The Washington Commanders can select an edge rusher with their first-round pick. That's the top priority above all else. But much will also depend on the reinforcements acquired in free agency. And General Manager Adam Peters will always choose the best prospect available, regardless of the need. This brings us to Caleb Downs. While selecting a safety so early in the draft isn't common, the Ohio State prospect is an exception. He's a legitimate pillar, capable of transforming any defense. The Commanders need a decisive player in the secondary, and this pick would fulfill that requirement and much more. If those in charge believe Downs can become as impactful as Kyle Hamilton, they need to act. While improvement should start on the offensive line, if the Commanders can find free agents to fill those gaps, investing their first-round pick in what is arguably the most talented prospect in this class would be worth its weight in gold. Downs has everything it takes to be a star. The value of his position on the field doesn't diminish that.
The Commanders are calling up Deontay Lawson, linebacker, Alabama Crimson Tide. Round 3, pick 79. Bobby Wagner's future remains uncertain. The future Pro Football Hall of Famer declined to comment on retirement rumors immediately following the season's end. But regardless of whether he retires or not, it would be surprising if the Washington Commanders brought him back for another season. Wagner remains a force between the tackles, but he's more vulnerable than ever in the open field. The Commanders have Jordan Magee and Frankie Louvu as a potentially dynamic duo. Even so, it might be worthwhile to find another capable player with the physical tools needed to be a key long-term player. Deontay Lawson is an exceptional communicator and a remarkable run defender. He was the leader of Alabama's defense this season, and while the Crimson Tide didn't quite live up to expectations, his speed, instincts, and positional awareness will certainly interest NFL teams on day 2 of the draft. If his medical problems are satisfactory, he could be an interesting option for the Washington Commanders.
Commanders call up Vincent Anthony Jr., edge rusher, Duke Blue Devils. Round 5, pick 145. Adam Peters knows the Commanders need more on their defensive line. Generating consistent pressure has been difficult in 2025. While injury issues haven't helped, a revamp is necessary for Washington's new defensive coordinator to get off to a good start. The Commanders are being heavily linked with Reuben Bain Jr. and David Bailey in the first round of the draft. But with money available to invest in free agency, that might be the preferred option.
At the same time, pursuing a top player with high rotation potential, even if slightly lower in the draft hierarchy, should also be considered. Vincent Anthony Jr. has been excelling every college season at Duke. His 2025 performance was his best to date, with 7.5 sacks and 13 tackles for loss. The player's exceptional wingspan allows him to create an advantage with ease. His anticipation against the run is also a factor that will certainly catch the attention of NFL scouts during the evaluation process. If he can gain more muscle mass and improve his tackles, someone will make a great deal.
Commanders draft Lewis Bond, wide receiver, Boston College Eagles, round 6, pick 185. The Commanders need more options on offense around quarterback Jaden Daniels. Only Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane are guaranteed to be on the roster in 2026. Two of them still have a lot to prove, so the receiving corps could look quite different when preparations for the new season begin to gain momentum. David Blau will certainly have his own ideas on how best to develop the offense. Much will also depend on the future of Deebo Samuel Sr., whose contract is expiring. Renewing his contract will be expensive, so a cheaper option from college football is something the front office will likely consider. Drawing a player like Lewis Bond could be a worthwhile risk at this stage of the draft. He's coming off a season where he nearly reached the 1,000-yard receiving mark. The Boston College prospect isn't the most physically imposing, but his speed and dribbling ability make him a threat on long passes in the right tactical scheme. Washington Commanders draft Ephesians Prysock, defensive back, Washington Huskies, round number 6, pick number 195. It wouldn't be surprising to see the Washington Commanders select a cornerback much earlier than this one, but considering that Mike Sainristil and Trey Amos were both second-round draft picks in the last 2 years, General Manager Adam Peters may opt to bring more experience to the team through free agency in order to bolster this young duo. Marshawn Lattimore is expected to be waived, saving $18.5 million on his contract. Jonathan Jones, Noah Igbenogany, and Antonio Hamilton Sr. are free agents and may not be able to secure new contracts. Signing some productive veterans would be a wise decision, but Peters may find 1 or 2 promising talents during the draft if he can identify the right players. Ephesians Prysock is an interesting prospect. He's an imposing cornerback, standing at 6 foot 3 inches tall with fluid movements. There are some technical issues to be resolved, and gaining physical strength wouldn't be a bad idea, but the Washington player has an intriguing athletic profile that deserves further analysis.
Commanders draft Josh Cuevas, tight end, Alabama Crimson Tide, round number 6, pick number 207. The Commanders have some issues to resolve at the tight end position. Zach Ertz has been the undisputed leader of the group for the past 2 seasons, but the Pro Bowl selection is out of contract this spring. A torn ACL suffered late in the season practically guarantees he won't return. Ben Sinnott was tipped to be Ertz's successor when the time came. The Kansas State graduate hasn't developed as well as fans hoped, but confidence remains high that he can become a useful receiver, with John Bates handling primary blocking. Even so, the Commanders could draft another player to develop if Sinnott makes mistakes. Josh Cuevas possesses some decent athletic qualities, and the flashes he showed at Alabama during the 2025 season suggest he could be molded into another viable option in the midfield and red zone with a little more honing.
Commanders select Dave Iuli, offensive line, Oregon Ducks, round number 7, pick number 223. If Chris Paul receives a contract extension this offseason to prevent him from leaving as a free agent, all 5 starting offensive linemen will return in 2026. This will be a major boost, especially considering the widespread changes expected at other positions. However, General Manager Adam Peters needs to continue finding ways to increase roster depth for when injuries inevitably occur. This is most important for the interior of the defensive line. Nick Allegretti appears to be a strong candidate to be cut, as he still has 1 more year on his contract. Andrew Wiley is a free agent and likely will not return. Brandon Coleman might fit better at the backup tackle position than at one of the guard positions. Adding a developing player in the later rounds of the draft could be something the Commanders should consider. Dave Iuli may have some technical flaws at the moment, but he has the physique and strength needed to become an important piece in the rotation, or even a starter over time.